Welcome back to Destiny Digest. How are you today?
Thank you. I am doing good. I am trying to digest a lot of information very quickly. I'm excited, but it's a lot.
Oh yeah, yeah. For folks at home who are listening to this or watching this on YouTube, we are recording this as the twid has dropped maybe 30 minutes ago, like at that.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
so there's some information that we may not have the full breadth of, but it seems like there's a lot of like interesting changes coming to Destiny with the patch that's going to be dropping on March 5th. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But first, before we get into everything, and in case people do not know you on the internet, why don't you tell them what you do in the Destiny community and where they can find you socially?
Yes, so I am Lego Flash. I make YouTube videos, deep diving weapons. Was a previous host of Destiny Massive Breakdowns. I'm over at Destiny Community Podcast now, but mainly my main thing is the YouTube channel. Just deep diving weapons now on my own. That usually entails fusion rifles, and I feel like I have you know how Fallout got stuck with shotguns for a little while. That's
Yeah.
that's how I feel like I am. But the problem is like I know them too well. Like they just
Hmm.
and so I have to talk about them when a new thing happens or a new thing comes out. And it I know that I am a reliable source of information there, but I also want to branch out because I do have a lot of in-depth knowledge of the rest of the sandbox.
Hmm.
But it's a good time over there on the YouTube channel. That is my main thing, and I love deep diving stuff.
I was going to say these are kind of prisons of your own devising, though. Like
Oh yeah,
you've
absolutely.
you found a niche in the community, and you like really went for it. And I know you've loved fusions for quite some time. This season brought around with it the Nox Perennial
Yeah.
5. What are your thoughts on that weapon?
So I actually had to hand out some apologies for Nox Perennial 5. Like for me, because I knocked it real hard at the when Nox first appeared because the stats are so bad. It's like the second worst fusion rifle, just stat on paper out of
Hmm.
any of them. And it didn't have any speed perks, which are what I need to make high impacts good for me because they fire so slow. There's even jokes on my YouTube channel. Whenever I say something good about it, they're like, "Yeah, that you might be able to hit things with this, but it doesn't fire until the next game once I pull
Yeah.
the trigger." But no, I owed an apology because I was really hard on it, and then after a lot of tinkering, because I mess with stuff for a long time to make sure, like, what did Bungie put in this thing that makes it worth using? And I found that you could use elemental capacitor to push that arc stat,
Hmm.
the handling up like super high, higher than you would normally be able to, and combine it with the range push of fragile focus, which normally I'm not a fan of that combo, but because you could push it just so far, both of those, no other fusion could get that much range and that much handling without sacrificing one or the other. Like if you could do it kind of with Glacio, but it couldn't even do it as well, and it has less aim assist than Nox Perennial 5
Hmm.
does. So it's an interesting weapon. It's not one that I'll find myself going to because I'm not super huge on handling, and I'm in love with the Eremite, which has Slick Draw. And no one else will use that, but I love that for the
Yeah.
handling. So that's my handling gun. But it's an interesting weapon. I definitely found a use for it, but not my favorite.
It's been a while since we've had you on the show. And a couple of the big questions that pop up for me, like where where are you with Destiny right now?
Mm.
As a creator, as a player, where do you find yourself most of the time?
So it's funny, like Destiny hasn't really changed for me the way that it has for maybe other players that are
Hmm.
looking to branch out and play other games. Like I have a 3-year-old trying to like keep up another job. Like I don't do this full time, so I don't get burned out on things like other content creators do, I think. And so I'm still like in the nitty gritty of different weapons that I haven't experienced yet, or different perks or combinations, and especially with all these new changes coming out. But even before then, I'd be like chasing some which I can say this now. Okay, I've been holding this back because it's an illegal like perk combo that I was not going to release into the public, but it's going to get changed in the update. So
Don't
I
worry,
can
nobody
say it.
listens to this. It's fine.
Yeah, yeah. So there was a combo with what is it? High ground on the strand bow from the dungeon where you
Mhm.
could use high ground and combine it with going radiant and using slice, which can all happen at the same time on a hunter. You do your acrobatic dodge, slice happens, which procs a seasonal trait. This is going deep. It procs a seasonal trait. I can't remember the name of it right now, but whenever you're radiant and you
Mhm.
debuff something with strand, it gives you an extra percentage buff. That works in the Crucible, and all of that happens at once. Like there's no like all you got to do is jump on a like rock or something.
Mhm.
You do your little acrobatic flip, and then you've got a one shot headshot bow as long as you keep all that up, which and
It
it
just
like keeps going
cascades.
for a while. Yeah, yeah, and so and you know for nothing, like you
Mhm.
just got a one shot bow, and that is so illegal. Like why does that exist? You know, and they're changing it with the damage and health changes that are coming in March. But yeah, just stuff like that that I just dig into, and I'm like, oh, what if I stack this and did that, and like the game is still interesting because I look at those intricate things, but I think it was Ascendant Nomad, actually, who I was on something with him. I can't remember what it was, and I was talking about this, and he was like, "Yeah, but Lego, like other people don't play the game that way.
I
Like
think it
they're
was the
not
last
gonna give
episode you
that
were on
deep."
with him here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
I
gonna
think-
say. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was here. I wasn't sure, and so yeah, I just like that has always been me. That's just my mindset, and so I am still having a lot of fun because there's just this game is so vast. Like when you think about all the different ways to play it. Like I just discovered Lucky Pants for the first. Like I'd
Mhm.
never used Lucky Pants before, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, you use this with Warden's Law, which is like the highest damage
Yeah.
PvE hand cannon, and I'm just deleting champions in a master, you know, whatever activity." Like I'm using a heavy, and so I just stuff like that, you know,
Mhm.
just everyday stuff that if you just approach it from a different character, it's a lot of fun. So I definitely, you know, there's that side of it where I'm still enjoying stuff and digging in stuff, but I
Mhm.
do feel the frustrations of rewards. I think there's certain reward stuff, certain RNG things, certain costs of like vendor engrams going up. So when the things that I am interested in, I can't even get to because there's just too many barriers for me as a player who plays quite a bit and is invested in this game. They've put up so many barriers for me to get to the fun stuff that I want to play. And that has been my frustration lately more than anything probably. Like I haven't been that frustrated with Crucible the way that I think other people have.
Mhm.
It's mainly been just like accessibility of gear and like doing the things that I want to do that are fun. And you know that can speak to PvP when it comes to playlists. Like them taking out the ability to have a normal control match that isn't such a small player population because
Mhm.
they've hidden it behind, like you got to go in and like select the node and switch the thing around, and like it's so hard to just get to a normal Crucible match right now. So
Mhm.
I feel those pain points when it comes to Crucible.
I haven't been playing a lot of Crucible this season. I think I say that every time I'm on the show talking for PvP. But it's I recently I got back into Iron Banner when that came back around, and they added the ability to swap to control. It seemed like that playlist had a lot more action in it than I forget what
Yes.
the other mode was at that time.
Yeah.
Eruption or Rift or
Yeah.
oh, was it no, it was the new one,
The one where you collect the
yes, that one. I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah.
But yes, that one. That was the one.
Yeah. So I've been finding myself pulled to that just because I was like, oh, that's available. But
Yeah.
I can see how we ran into this somewhat in Destiny 1, and we ran into this in Destiny 2 of too many playlists thins out the herd during a time of maybe drought.
Mhm.
So in your mind, outside of the things that we know are coming in on March 5th, what are a couple of things that you would like to see before the final shape to to kind of alleviate some of the stress of rewards and
I feel like the biggest thing for me is what I was talking about with the ritual playlist Ingram system. Like the way that they've moved it around really discourages people from staying in there to get the things that they want. It's not just, and they did it like in a double way because it's like you, the Ingrams are dropping not as frequently. It feels like I don't really have a problem in Crucible because like I'm in there anyway. But like for Vanguard Strikes, an activity that I'm fine with playing, but I don't want to spend hours in there. And I think it was last night. I was like, okay, I'll do some Nightfall stuff, and you could spend like an hour doing like 3 Nightfall things. And I got a total of 3 Ingrams from that time that I could spend on one thing over at Zavala because that's how many Ingrams it takes to focus the thing that I was looking for. It wasn't even an adept weapon or anything. It was just an old weapon. And it's like, man, that was a ton of time for just and I deleted the roll. So it felt like it was a nothing roll. And so just for such little opportunity to get gear, that is the reason why I play the game. Like I get that it's a looter shooter and you want to make things take time, but there's enough RNG in it, like getting a 5 out of 5. The odds are just soaring, and yet you're making it this hard for me to even get one.
Yeah,
I agree. I fully agree with that. The costs of focusing an engram is, in my opinion, a huge issue. Especially, like, I understand, okay, you can decide which weapon or armor piece or whatever you want to get, and there's more possibilities of weapons. Like, you can choose more weapons. That's good. I appreciate that. But the fact that it costs so many for, like, one piece of whatever is... And the rest of it, too, like, the cost of, like, I think it was... Well, the legendary shards are going to be less of an issue moving forward, but still, because the cost of it is so prohibitive, especially when you consider that these weapons, specifically those playlist weapons, whether Gambit, Crucible, or Vanguard, or whatever, they have like 12 possible perks in each of the last 2 rows, right? So it's 24 total, and then even if you've done multiple resets, it's not guaranteed that you'll have 3 possible perks drop on each, right? It's a chance to. And that's another issue. I'm like, if I've reset my rank 5 times, why can't you guarantee that I have 3 possible perks in the last 2 rows? Like, what's preventing you from doing that? Because then that would incentivize me being like, okay, I'll go reset. I'll go do it. I'll go 5 reset times. Then I know I'll have 6 possible perks and a bunch of combinations that I can do, way more chances. Then the cost of focusing becomes a little bit better that way. But other than that, it doesn't feel worth it. I'm wasting my time, especially since strikes. It's a little bit less than GMs, but some strikes are really long. They're really, really long.
Yes.
So I'm like, okay, I do a strike, like, depending on the strike, between 15, 20, sometimes 30 minutes maybe, because maybe my blueberries are not doing anything. Who knows?
Yeah.
I feel ya. Yeah.
1 engram. I can't even use 1 engram to focus 1 weapon. I need to do 3 strikes, and then I can get 1 weapon with possibly very bad perks. What am I doing? Like, why? My time investment doesn't feel like it's being rewarded. At least that's my opinion on this.
Oh, I'm with you 100%. And yes, that is the vibe. That is the feeling when you finish, you use all that time and you feel very defeated afterwards. And it's like, man, it wasn't that I didn't enjoy doing the thing. Like maybe I'm trying out some new weapons and like that was cool, but like I would have rather been playing the Crucible. I would have rather been, doing this raid or dungeon, whatever the thing you're wanting to do is. So it's that is like the one thing that I would like to see. I will give them credit that they did fix my other big issue, which was world drops. I was so done with world drops because the rate that you would get new stuff was so low and there was no way to acquire them. It was like you didn't even know some weapons existed. You were like, oh, what is this? I've never seen it before. And to some, I could see how you would be like, oh, well, that's the joy of Destiny. It's like getting an exotic to drop. I'm like, yeah, but this isn't an exotic. This is some random world drop with a, big perk pool that I'm going to get some random roll of and I want to get the thing,
It's also year 10 for some of us. you know? So like kind of keeping that carrot away from you after you've put so much time in can negatively affect how you feel about the
Yep.
game.
That and a newcomer is like, oh, what is this? Oh wait, there's
Mhm.
other weapons. How do I get these weapons? Oh, I have to wait for a chance for it to drop. Oh, and not only do I have to wait for a chance for it to drop, but then I have to figure out a way to get it to drop with the perks that I want. Like that, it's so much RNG on top of RNG. I understand, like Lego said, that yeah, it's a shooter looter. You want RNG, you want that,
Mhm.
but I feel like sometimes Bungie doesn't balance it quite right when it comes to RNG stuff. I feel like
Yeah.
there should be a way, like, you want us to grind? Cool. I will grind if the activity is fun. Like Coil was fun. I'm a bit over it because it's
Yeah.
been so much.
Yeah.
But that's just because, it's repetitive and so on and so forth.
It's
But
a long
that's okay.
season.
It's not really fun. It is a very long season, but the activity is fun and it's very rewarding because on top of the weapons that you can get and everything, there's also the ciphers that you can get. I think that
Mhm.
was an amazing idea that they did there. Put the cipher, if you get a platinum run, you get ciphers. For people that can't always do GMs, amazing. Yeah, it's a long activity, but hey, I can get an adept weapon. Amazing. But make the activity fun. Give me a chance of focusing that specific weapon in a specific activity that is fun. I would gladly spend my time grinding for that.
Yeah.
But if you tell me like this weapon is not available other than a random chance, I don't care about this weapon now. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with you. And the thing that I was gonna say bravo to was the putting them in the lost sectors and that grind. Like I know some people don't like doing lost sectors anymore, but it's pretty fast. You find the right one. It's the day where your weapon rolls, and if you do the master, you get double perks, which should be baseline. I feel like in every activity, there should be something that you could do to get double perks to drop. You have it in trials, you have it in Grandmaster stuff, you've got it in these world drops, but like it's not on raid stuff, there's not. I guess there is, like if you're going for the adept version of it, but there's just certain things where I'm like, oh, I would do that if I could get double perks to drop. I guess an example would be the Zavala Ingrams I was focusing. It was like an older weapon, but because you'd reset your rank, it still didn't apply because it was an older weapon. And I was like, come on, like just give us the perks, So it's an old weapon. Come on. So yeah, I'm with you. I have that pain point, but also I see them improving stuff in that area. So I'm glad for that. It's much needed.
So moving into let's post March, post fix for what's the patch name here? Update 7.3.5. We have a lot of changes. Say
we
what?
need a code name for that. We need a code name like PvP 2.0 or something.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're past 2.0, but
or like the update before PvP 5.0 or something, like is what it really feels like,
Yeah.
PvP March update. Let's just go with simple.
PvP March update.
Make it
There we
simple.
go. There we go. Pre-tax season PvP update.
Oh man, don't remind me.
No, just March PvP update. Thank you. We're fine.
PvP update for March. So we see just some of the cliff notes that they had for abilities. So a reduction in uptime for Threaded Spectre, a few changes to threadlings to make them easier to deal with in the Crucible, a fix for the restoration timer extension issue with a few corresponding changes to relevant solar fragments, and a smaller number of ability buffs that we're pulling forward from our balance pass for the final shape. Ability-wise, where do you see the sandbox kind of going for PvP?
Oh my gosh. So that's probably the best part universally of the changes for PvP, because the other parts that we're going to get to in a second are kind of controversial depending on what kind of player you are, but like universally I feel like less ability, like abilities are just everywhere right now, and like as somebody who uses them a lot to gain an advantage, like it's to the point where it's like, okay, like if you're not doing this, it's significantly like a significant disadvantage, and you want to use your gun some because that is the best part of Destiny, is the way the guns feel. So like they do a great job with the space magic, but gun feel in PvP really is the highlight of the game.
So we were talking a little bit about that build that you had earlier for Solar. How do these updates to Restoration and Radiant enhance that build?
Sorry, which build are
So
you referring
the
to?
build that you were talking about, you have a one-shot bow.
Oh gosh, yeah. Sorry, I forgot. It was already deleted from my mind. I've moved on because it's actually, if you want to get this, it has more to do, I think, with the weapon damage changes that we're going
Mhm.
to talk about. So than the actual abilities. But yeah, it would make things like damage stacking, radiant, or even, if you go that far, Golden Tricorn times 2 that needs an ability to get that huge 50% buff. Like there's stuff like that, all the crazy damage stacking stuff
Mhm.
that just isn't going to happen as much anymore, but can still happen. Some of not the bow thing, but
Right.
other things can still happen, and you're gonna kind of like earn it more, and you're gonna kind of have to intentionally use that ability at that point. Plus, this is Destiny. Like, there's still like tons of ways to get your melee or grenade energy back. You got Pugilist, you got Demolitionist. And I think that's even another highlight of this change is it will make perks like that more meaningful. How often do you see like a PvP player? You see it in PvE a lot, but a PvP
Mhm.
player be like, "Oh, that has demo on it." Like,
Yeah.
I'll get to have my grenade back. No, you're looking for opening shot. You're looking for under pressure. All the accuracy stuff and all the
Mhm.
handling stuff.
Things
So it
that
would be
bring down your time to
interesting.
kill.
Yeah, yeah. I think as we get into it, that and the deeper I look into it, I found that perk doors are really being open to diversify the thing that people are going for. The main thing for me that I just dove into this week was fusion rifles got just a massive change. Like, yeah, you're not going to see them as much, but they really cleaned up the perks that you would want to go for, and not make it so like high impact reserves. That's the only one you need. Always go for that one. Always. Period. Done. Like, and all the rest, forget about them. No, now it's like, oh, they cleaned up the bolts to kill, to where it's kind of even across the board. And if you want, like, high impact reserves is like icing damage on top. If you want to do a certain thing, but it's not gonna change the basic way the gun feels. So that stuff like that is like, I'm really excited for how the Crucible is gonna feel more cleaned up.
Mhm.
I think would be the best way to say it for me. And as far as like ability uptime specifically, I think I'm most excited for that change. I think the weapons, both ammo and damage, is the more controversial thing.
Mhm.
But even on damage, I hinted at just now that they've really cleaned it up. Cool Guy has a great video he just released it that kind of goes over what it means, all the little crit damage increases
Mhm.
and the overall plus 30 health that they're bringing. And it's just a great breakdown because it's like, oh, this is a very intentional change, across the board. Like, they're trying to even things out and make perks more variable, not just always go for this one thing.
Mhm. So
So I like
let's
all that.
let's get into some of the weapons and some of the subfamilies and everything. What you were saying that there was more controversy. What do you
Mhm.
feel is the most controversial changes from last week's Twid?
It would be, I don't think health is as controversial. Like, everyone's like, okay, yeah, adding more health, making it to their goal in that was people to know what you're dying from. And
Mhm.
so if you got 3 tapped by a hand cannon headshot, like, I got 3 tapped, but it's not going to be like, oh, I got bodied 2 tap, or there's these things that happen that are just like, whoa, like, I died so fast from so many different things by someone being inaccurate hitting body
Mhm.
shots. And that's what they really nailed down on his body shot tiny kill values. But I think the controversial thing would be special ammo.
Mhm.
For sure. It's like, it feels almost split down the board in my comment section. Of course, I have a lot of special ammo people coming to my channel, but
Fusion
the,
rifles.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like, people are some people come to Destiny for the space magic, special ammo vibe. I don't think if you came for abilities, it's gonna be that drastically different. Like, you
Mhm.
can't crutch it maybe as much as you would like. But special ammo, like, you're gonna be forced to do other things. Like, right now, you can just spawn, use your 2 ammo, die, spawn, use your two
Mhm.
ammo, die over and over again.
I'm
And some
familiar
people
with the
like that.
tactic.
Yeah, yeah.
I do that all the time when I'm
So
playing Crucible.
I think that for sure is the most controversial thing, is changing that up, because people just like playing that way. And the main thing that I can say to that is, like, just give it a chance. Like, I'm not 100% sure I'm gonna love the new thing either. There were things about Checkmate I didn't like, or that didn't feel like I wanted to do them all the time. But I'm going to give it a shot because, like you said earlier, 10 years of playing a game, the kind of the same feel over and over again. I'm down to do something fresh. And people are like, I already played D2 vanilla. I know what this feels like. No, that's not a fair comparison. Like, because that was all your special weapons in the heavy slot and forced yourself into double primary. That's not what this is. This is, you're gonna have special weapon up. I think that the better comparison is D1, the end of D1, where you had special ammo boxes. That's probably like the closest comparison. But even then, you could play around and just go grab boxes and not really participate. Whereas here, you're going to have to participate in some way in the game mode with a primary. So I'm excited for it. I think it's controversial. I can see both sides of it, but I think I mean, I'm glad Bungie's doing this because I think it's better for the health of the overall game. I'm not just talking about sweat lords and PvP that just want you to primary them. I'm talking about just for the fresh experience to know where you're getting killed from. And I'm saying this as somebody who loves special ammo too, but we need something fresh, honestly. Like, there needs to be more changes as far as like getting abilities under control. And I think the body shot and health changes are an interesting addition to that I'm excited to see what it all feels like. And one more thing real quick that I hadn't really mentioned, but I think is worth talking about. They kind of emphasize it in the new update this week. And that's that special ammo for shotguns, fusions, glaives, and trace rifles are all getting a small buff, and so they'll all feel just a little bit better, so that it feels really solid when you have that ammo to use it. And I think that's going to make a difference too. Not like a huge difference, but definitely you're going to feel like a small, like, oh, like I nailed that shot. Like, it just feels more consistent, and that's what I felt with the fusion rifle changes, is just enough to make it more consistent across the board. And I think that will have players feeling a little bit better about their special ammo too when they do have it.
Do you feel like these changes that they are making for the weapons in March, do you feel like they are enough to kind of shake up what you see players using at the top, or the most used weapons during the season?
I think yes, and I think it's not as much because of the special ammo change. Like, yeah, that's big, but you're talking about the top. The top is like prime SMG usage, some hand cannon stuff too, and or maybe both combined. I'm not sure what the numbers are. I haven't looked at them in a while, but that's what I'm used to getting slayed by whenever I'm playing a really good player. And I feel like the good thing about this change is you're gonna know when someone is the best and they duel you and they win that duel with like an SMG because they didn't miss a headshot is what that means. Because the body shot damage is gonna be so much lower than crits now that it's gonna kind of even out that feeling of like, wow, I just got melted because that gun is just OP, to wow, that person was on point with their shots. That's what you want to say at the end of a match. You don't want to say like, oh, what could I have done? Which is one of their goals, and something that I'm excited about. We'll see if they need to nerf things a little bit more or less, but it feels like they're really trying to nail down that inaccurate, that feeling of like, what, they weren't even playing that great and I just got massacred. But they're leaving enough with the abilities and everything that people like me, who like playing more with my mind than with, say, my accuracy sometimes, it leaves tools open for me too. Like, there's enough stuff, even if I just use double primary, there's enough stuff there for me to figure out things to tinker with, to stack things and do interesting abilities that let me play outside the norm. So maybe it might take people a little bit to get used to, but I feel like it's gonna really shake things up at the top. Will it bring more players in is the question that I'm wondering, like, or players back who have left and don't spend any time here right now. That would be my main question.
I feel like that's something that they're addressing here in this week's TWID. if we can move forward a little bit in that
Yeah.
into that. Like, Seth messaged me. She was like, Artifice armor and competitive Crucible.
Wait,
That's
I want to talk
Yes.
about it at some
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
Because
I
think it's
almost
really
sent you
cool.
the same message.
well, that's huge. That's absolutely huge for Crucible players, for people who want to play their own way. That is
Yes.
immense.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm so happy for PvP players. So happy. Because I know a lot of them are like, I want that armor. I would love to
Mhm.
get that armor, but
And they don't want to do
I
a
don't
dungeon.
really
Yeah.
or like they don't really enjoy it, or they don't have a lot of people, right? Because I've said this to Nomad before too. It's easier, quote unquote, to take a PvP player and put them in a PvE settings because a lot of their foundation skills
Mm-hmm.
can translate, right? It's they just have to learn the rhythm of the activity instead of having to learn the rhythm of their opponent, right? If that makes sense. So you can do that, but not every PvP player wants to do that or has PvE players, friends that they can do that with, right?
Yeah, that's a big one.
So to give them that reward and be like, yeah, if you do this, you'll have this armor that is pretty good, and you can do it on your own, quote unquote, or you can do it with friends, but your PvP friends. You don't have to do PvE activities that might not interest you. So I think like I'm so happy that they added that as a PvE player. I'm really happy for PvP players.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm right there with you on that. I'm so happy that we finally have a chance. You hit some really good points there, like not having PvE friends to go in and get that artifice armor, and the fact that it was missing from an entire section of the game it'd be like if adepts were only in PvE and not in PvP, and that's rough. That's a rough look. So I'm glad that they're bringing that over. And what's really cool about them bringing it over is that it's in comp, and it's through the weekly challenge. You go like one step further than you would for the weapon. But then also once you do that, then every victory you have after that has a chance to drop more. Like there's no cap on it. And that was impressive. I was hoping to see, we need more of that, where there's not like a cap on something and you can play the thing you want to play and get the things that you want to get.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I'm really happy.
Do you think that this is an experiment with that to possibly push to other spaces in the game?
I would hope that it would be more of an experiment to put more stuff in Crucible, honestly. Like I think that just having this in two places is good. Sorry, Gambit players. Like, you could if you wanted to.
I don't see the point of having like Artifice armor in Gambit. It there's no like the logic to me doesn't logic.
There was a time for it, and it was a few years ago.
Yes, Gambit Prime, absolutely. I 100% agree. Now is not, the time has passed.
I will say that what I was hoping for them to push it one step further and have craftable adept or enhanced adept weapons for like trials or something, or even for the comp weapons. I don't even care where you put it. It'd just be interesting to have. I think trials would make more sense, especially for players that they make it to the lighthouse that one time. And if there was some way for them to get something they could tinker with more and really invest into, that would be pretty cool. I don't know how they would make it to where it was interesting to keep coming back to that activity. But I do want to see that eventually.
Well, when it comes to trials, we're seeing that there's some shakeups there for team-based matchmaking. They said the two common suggestions for how to solve the issue with trials and their matchmaking are make it so only trios can queue and make it so duos cannot queue, or they can queue, but they're not protected from trios. What the proposed changes they're saying are like, we've modified the passage of ferocity and added the new passage of persistence to make getting a first flawless more attainable and allow players who cannot get flawless to still earn adept weapons. And players who play at least as part of a 3-person team will be given additional rewards on match completions, including additional 50% chance to drop the non-adept Trials weekly weapon reward, a 50% chance at a Trials engram drop, and additional Trials reputation. That, as well as like some of the lobby balancing changes. Do you feel like this is enough to bring people back to Trials for the rest of the season?
I do think that the ferocity and persistent card changes are so. I'll read those real quick because or just like summarize them. So ferocity, that's a card we already have, but now once you get to 3 wins, it's like a checkpoint. It's like a raid checkpoint where you get to that 3 wins, and then if you get a loss on the card after that, it resets you back to those 3 wins. So you don't go all the way back to the beginning. You still save some of your progress. So that's like a cool start. But then the real interesting thing for most players, especially those players who have never been to the Lighthouse or never gotten an Adept Trials weapon before, you've got the Passage of Persistence. And it truly is like just something you just persistently play on this card. At first, it sounds like a back and forth. Every win you get counts as a win. And then if you get a loss, it just backtracks you 1 win. But the cool thing is, so that people don't get so discouraged, is once you get 2 wins, you basically secure that previous win because you can't get 2 loss removals in a row. So you're always like, once you get so far in, you've basically checkmarked that spot, and you can go back and forth in that one spot. But if you get 2 wins in a row, you've made progress. You've moved forward at that point until you get to the 7 wins. The thing with this is you can't go to the Lighthouse, but you do get an Adept weapon. So, I mean, that's amazing. It's our first ever Adept Trials weapon you can get without going to the Lighthouse.
By just playing. And I love that as somebody who doesn't really get to the Lighthouse. I love that. No, it's a great thing because the Lighthouse has other possible rewards too, right? The ships, the sparrows, the ghosts, the shaders. Amazing shaders, by the way, really good shaders.
Yes.
That I'm jealous of, but that's a whole other thing. But I was just saying, like, they have other things too. I think it's also a golf ball and like some shards and whatnot. So you get way more going to the Lighthouse. So there's still an incentive, in my opinion, to go to the Lighthouse. Hey, I want all of these things. I'll try to do that. But for the people that are like, I want to play, I want the armor, for example, for Transmog, and I would like to get the Adept, but I don't really think I'll be able to get to the Lighthouse. I'll just play. I'll just stay in the playlist. I'll keep playing. At some point, by persisting, literally, I will get it. I should be able to get it. So that's an amazing change for like PvE players, in my opinion.
I'm glad to hear your take on it. Yeah, I'm glad to hear your take on it because it excites me for other players who don't frequently make it to the Lighthouse, and I feel like that will be something that will bring people back into the playlist. I don't know about back to the game, but at least back into the playlist to be like, oh, I can play this thing. I hope that they like really do a good job of telling people in game that this is a thing, because that has been a problem in the past too, like letting people making people aware that, hey, this is actually really cool, look at this.
I agree. Well, but and I think it's a really good change.
It seems like they're trying to be more open about like which playlists have what perks available, or they say here at one point that they're going to be adding, I think, the way that something is match made into the playlist, like little toggle box, which isn't something that I think was there before.
I think that's what I was talking about earlier with the like, oh, you can get to control, but you gotta like go to the toggle box and do this thing, and it was kind of complicated to get to the thing that you wanted to play, or you just didn't even know it was there. So it sounds like they're kind of nailing down on that and being like, oh, here's how you get to this thing. Before we move on to matchmaking, though, I do want to talk about that participation rewards for the 3-man fire teams. I'm curious on y'all's take on it, because to me, that's not really an incentive to like team up with people. Like I feel for those who want to duo queue into this, but it still feels like the solution is to get rid of duo queues. Because I just don't see, like, as long as a solo player is going in there and getting paired with a 2-stack and having to face a 3-stack, like that's gonna feel bad. No matter how you roll it, that's gonna feel bad. And there has to be a solo player thrown in there if duos are queuing. Whereas if you take out duos, it's not an issue anymore. So yeah, that still feels like a problem. I don't feel like this incentive is really gonna change. Like that's not at all gonna incentivize me to join 3 people.
Right. Because like I'm seeing constantly in my feeds every week, solos going to the lighthouse, and they're like, "Hey, this is the season I've gone to it the most,"
Yeah.
And I just don't know how this alleviates that. I guess a 50% chance is fine, like like that kind of drop is fine, but if it were to move the needle to like 75%. Like I could see that being more of an incentive to do those things.
Yeah,
Or
but it's also a non-adept.
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's not just
Like-
is the rewards aren't as meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just like, don't get me wrong, non-adepts are still pretty good, and some people they don't really care whether it's an adept or non-adept or whatever. Like sure,
Mm-hmm.
it's more like okay, so they're getting that, but maybe they don't need a non-adept because they already have like the perfect version of the adept. Like because I'm thinking of these players that like live and breathe trials on the
Mhm.
weekend, right? They're in, they go, they do like multiple cards, or they keep their cards, keep playing. And then there's not that many of them, or like the trials helpers, right? The Sherpas, the
Mhm.
people that are like, hey, I'm gonna help you try to get to the lighthouse.
The
so on and
Jakes
so
of the
forth.
world.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or yeah, exactly. Those people that do that and that's what they do, and they're the ones that play the most. Why do they care about that? I don't think they care about that because I see
Mm-mm.
multiple times those players like they'll fully rank up and they'll never turn in their ranking, right? They'll never re-rank again. Or they'll re-rank twice and after that they don't care because they're like it doesn't give me anything. There's no rewards. It's a reward that I don't care about. I don't need these weapons. I already have everything that I want. I keep going to the lighthouse every time I help someone, so I keep getting adepts. So like, why do I care about a non-adept version, right? What
It's
Mhm.
weird.
It's a non PvP player type of reward in my
Yeah, but
opinion.
those players aren't going to be joining like
Exactly.
if you're not a PvP player and you don't have like a trials team usually to do this, like it's just
You're
going to be
not
like,
gonna
oh man, I could be getting those extra rewards, but I don't. I'm just in
Yeah.
the same position I've always been in. Too bad I can't get them.
Yeah.
if instead they had done like Artifice Armor, or if they had done
Mhm.
golf balls, right?
Oh
Or
my
then
God,
like those materials, they're a little bit harder to get.
Right.
PvP players, right? Golf balls as a PvE, I can get that like in GMs. I can get that in different activities.
Mm-hmm.
PvP players don't really get those. Like,
Right.
yeah, they can, but not that much. Like, what if you had said instead you'll get like a golf ball every, like a 50 chance or 75% chance of a
Mhm.
golf ball, or like
Mhm.
whatever other thing, right? I think that would have already made it a little bit more interesting to these people. Be like, hey, I really need golf balls. Can we go farm trials so I can get those golf balls, please? I don't know.
Outside
That's just me.
outside of golf balls though, what would make you hop in with two of your buddies? You know what I mean?
Me or Lego?
Both of you.
Lego, go for it.
I feel like for me, it'd be hard to say what that would be. Like
Mhm.
yeah, like really the only things that interest me are adepts and the artifice armor. Like those are really
Yep.
the only reasons I would be in there. The only and maybe what's weird for me right now is I feel like Ingrams would be a lot more interesting for all playlists if you could get the legacy adept, if you could focus legacy, because like they're not in the pool, why not just make, and they may not even come back in that form again, why not just
Yes.
make the adept versions available? Like you can make it 10 engrams, like whatever, it could be super costly, like that doesn't matter. But you may never get these weapons again, and there, like for instance, there is no like Trials fusion rifle right now, it doesn't exist, like
Mhm.
and tons of people in my comments are like, I wish I could still get Burden of Guilt to Death, but I can't, so might as well go for a different fusion rifle in a different activity. Whereas like you could be drawing people into trials if they're like, oh, I could go get the adept sidearm that's not available right now. I could get an adept version of that. Different things like that, and you could apply that to Zavala too. You could be like, oh, you go play a bunch of strikes, you could turn in 10 engrams and you can get the legacy whatever adept thing there that you've been looking for that isn't available anymore. And
Like
then
a
if they
hung
bring
jury
it
roll
back,
that was from
Yes.
years back. Yeah.
yeah, and you could bring it back and have different roles and take it out of the legacy pool, and then it just wouldn't be there anymore, and that's fine. But just having more things to do with your engrams would make those engrams more appealing and make stuff like this, like, oh, I do want those engrams because I want a bunch of them to spend them on these legacy adepts. Like, that would be awesome.
The amount of people that would go for a palindrome at Zavala, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Because it's a weapon that hasn't been back, right? But yeah, I agree. But okay, so if we do that, the thing that would have to change, I believe, and I don't know if Bungie would ever allow that, is, for example, in most of them currently, but also specifically in Vanguard, because Vanguard is the easiest way to kind of show this, because you can buy all of the seasonal adept weapons if you've unlocked them. Now, we would have to remove the if you've unlocked them condition to that. Yeah. But I think that if you make the price, like you said, like 10 engrams, like a very huge price, I think that would make it worth it, right? Even if you apply it to Zavala, you're like 15, 20 engrams. Heck, I would do that. I'd be like, yeah, okay, I'll pay the price. I'll get 20 engrams on that one weapon as a chance at it to unlock it or whatever. I think that would work. And
just, even more so, not just I'd pay the price, but I would pay the price in time to go do that activity to have a chance for this thing that isn't available anymore.
Yep, I agree. I would do that too. I think that's a great idea. I'd love that. Yep, 100%.
So I guess now we can touch on matchmaking a bit here. So
that is a subject. Let's put it this way.
So they say the already live bits they replace the loose skill-based matchmaking in Iron Banner and Control with a new outlier protection matchmaking system. They updated competitive matchmaking to be used to be rank-based. They're currently testing several different configurations of a new Snake Draft lobby balancer, which I think is something that I've heard you and I've heard True Vanguard talk about quite a bit when it came to matchmaking.
I don't remember if TV likes it or not. I love Snake Draft lobby balancing. It's not always the fairest in terms of like the team composition, but it feels more. It doesn't feel so 50-50, you know, they say it, they actually have a note in here, like we don't aim for 50-50, but it often feels that way in previous matchmaking systems because they try to like balance out, oh, this one really good player, let's balance all these guys players, whatever. And then everybody's sweating the whole time. Whereas with Snake Draft, you can have more like slightly off balance things. You can have a VIP like on each team that's like, oh, they're the like main two that keep going at each other. Like, and I think that's interesting. But I know not everybody will love that system.
Yeah. They say with update 7.3.5, they'll be updating the playlist tooltips to correctly display the matchmaking style that is used in each mode, which is something we touched on a little bit earlier. Yeah. And they have several changes planned for ongoing experimentation with Snake Draft lobby balancing aimed at improving how it handles fire teams. What are your thoughts here? What are you?
I feel like I just have talked matchmaking so much in the past that I'm to the point where like it would be great to play in a matchmaking system where it just is a true quick play and throws me in. Like, I would love that. I know more than half the population maybe even like wouldn't love that. And I'm totally fine to play whatever. I just would like for it to be more variety is better. More like not having to use meta weapons 100% of the time is better. And it sounds like they're sticking with Snake Draft lobby balancing. And to me, that feels like a little bit more variety in the past. It's not like exactly what I personally would love, but I'm also all for whatever gets the most players in their plane. And ultimately, like, you're just never going to please everyone. Like, there's just no way. No. There's just too many. The skills are just so everywhere. And people have been playing this game for so long that it's so hard for it not to feel super sweaty. Like, everybody's so good once you get to that certain point that it's like the difference between like the top, 70 to 100 of Crucible players is just, that everybody's so good. Everybody knows, everybody could be very successful. Maybe though. And this is where I'm okay with them not like jumping to switch up matchmaking. These actual sandbox changes are so big that it might change that skill gap more so that we see more variety, and it's not just like you feeling like you have to use the meta thing because the people who are using whatever weapon they're using, they're going to have to be dead on to be the best at it. And hopefully that makes balancing the weapons easier and will just make every game feel a little better and not so oppressive. And that would be, I think, what I'd hope for more than anything. So maybe they're just letting matchmaking just kind of sit and just see what happens with the sandbox and how the games play out, and then adjust matchmaking or the sandbox first. Whatever comes first. But I could see it being difficult to tune both at the same time when they're going to affect each other a lot.
Also, the player base.
Yeah, that too.
Like the player base is so low at the moment that even if you make those like changes, even in incremental steps or incremental levels, like your player base is so small. I'm so sorry, like it sucks to say, but it's true. Like the player base currently is so small that no matter what change you make, you still have like X amount of people to pit against each other.
Yeah.
Right. So it becomes a question of like, okay, yeah, I would love like play like a quick play to just be connection based. I just want to get into a game, play the game as quickly as possible, get into another match. If I'm playing PvP, right? I don't usually play PvP, but if I'm like, hey, I'm in a mood for PvP, let me do that.
Yeah.
I would love to have that. But even if you make changes to matchmaking, if you have like 100 people to matchmake against each other and you have like a wide range of skills, no matter what your matchmaking is, it's not gonna matter much because you only have so many players. So I think that another big issue they're facing right now is like, yeah, we want to make this better, but they're still gonna have X amount of players to apply this to, and it's still gonna be an issue because of that part.
The next big influx probably isn't going to be until like May.
Final shape.
We get the new map pack in May.
Map. Yeah, that'll be a big deal, I think.
Yeah,
people are gonna want to try that out.
Yeah,
true. I agree with that.
That'll be a good injection right before Final Shape.
Oh,
yeah, but I think that's gonna be mainly possibly like returning players and not new players, right?
Yeah.
And it's again an X amount of people that'd be like, hey, I want to try those map packs, or hey, I wanna whatever, I want to try this new quote unquote Crucible. I want to try this new update. I don't think that we'll see absolute like big changes or what feels like big changes in terms of like player base until the Final Shape, because that will bring in new people. Because let's be real, one thing that Bungie, at least in the past, was really good at was marketing for the DLCs and bringing in new people for those DLCs, right? Now some people stayed after Witch Queen because Witch Queen was an absolute beast of a DLC and it was great. But the current one wasn't quite as good, let's be honest. But they still managed to bring in new people, right? And do great marketing for it. So
Chris Freed from the last episode would like a word. Anyways, continue.
Okay,
you're actually like bringing up an excellent point that I wanted to make, and that is that this is all of this, even though we're in low population right now, is in preparation for Final Shape. Like they
100%,
want
100%.
the Crucible to be in a good state so that when new players come in or players who haven't played in years come in to see the final thing that happened with Destiny, they jump into the sandbox and like, whoa, like this is like pretty cool. Like the maps we got these new maps. Even the big maps that I play on, which we didn't talk about yet, but they reduced the spawn area for big maps like Disjunction to where it only takes up 30 to 50% of the map size. Like it's going to feel much tighter, which hallelujah. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Like that was so needed. And I'm glad that they're like starting to use their assets in a smart way, you know, like because having Disjunction and Rumble and stuff like that, it was just what is happening. And so they're actually utilizing that stuff better while having the new stuff, while having a new sandbox. Just for players who haven't played in 2 years, it's gonna be like, what is this game? Like it's gonna feel completely different. Like they're gonna have the same weapons, special weapons, and they're gonna feel strong, but it's not gonna be everywhere and just spamming, you know, you never know what you're getting killed by. So it's definitely all in preparation for Final Shape.
Yeah, they're cleaning house. They're cleaning house, like tidying up quote unquote loose ends or tidying up stuff that have been a little bit left aside for a while or that have been kind of neglected for a while, let's call it that. And they're like, okay, we're gonna make all of these sweeping changes and all of these things in hopes, and like ahead of time, in hopes that they can make it really good for the final shape. Yeah, 100%.
We also get a long list of like game mode changes that are coming. So like we just got Sparrow Control starting in March with the March PvP update. We get a 3v3 King of the Hill mode collision that will be entering into Crucible Labs. A single larger zone will rotate between 5 points around the map on a timer. What are the odds of that turning into a Trials mode sometime down the road? Iron Banner Tribute has undergone multiple changes.
Tribute. Yeah, that's what it was.
Tribute, yeah.
With the update after this next one, we see Checkmate back in the Crucible Labs. New modifier hardware, where it's no abilities, only weapons. And then,
can we pause on that one?
Yeah, let's go.
Hardware sounds. So many people have wanted this for so long, like because of the gunplay in Destiny, and now we're gonna get a mode that is weapons only, no ability. Like I can't imagine what that's gonna feel like. First of all, but also talk about something feeling fresh. Like that's gonna be so different than what we have now, and I can see a lot of players really enjoying that.
Kind of pushing and gravitating toward that. And then they say with Final Shape, private matches will have more options for players to set per mode. So modifiers such as Mayhem or Scorched will be options in any game mode. Play custom matches with your clan mates and friends, or leverage Fireteam Finder. We have also added more custom tuning for existing game modes. So you can have better control over things like special ammo delivery, ability cooldowns, reviving, respawning, and more. That it doesn't seem like an end of life change, but it sounds like they're trying to make it more so you can do different types of customs. That extend the life of PvP.
They're doing, you know how they made Checkmate a modifier and they said it let them put it into different game modes? It sounds like they're doing that with like Mayhem and some other things. So you'll be able to do like Mayhem Rift or something like that.
Yeah.
That sounds cool to like just be able to switch things up. And the more options we have in there, the better, honestly, because custom matchmaking in other games like Halo, like we've seen how far that can go. So I'm the more they put in there, the better. I'm excited that they're doing it.
That also feels like a thing. Like we're getting a new director.
Oh yeah,
and like that's kind of what their bread and butter was with Halo, was the custom Crucible.
True.
So like that feels like something of a stepping stone to possibly play in for whatever the longevity of Destiny 2 is after the Final Shape. I know that that's been a hot button issue with the community for the past couple weeks. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that, Leo?
Oh my gosh, somebody did a twit video today about it, but I totally agreed with it. I was like, this is their business. They're not going to stop making money. They're not going to just stop and say, let's take a chance on Marathon. Let's try these, annual whatever. Like, Destiny is going to keep going, large expansions or some form that is the same amount of content that costs a large sum of money will continue to happen, because that's where they get their money from to do everything that they do. They're not just going to risk that away. So yeah, that's just not the way business works. And so it's just kind of a silly conversation to me, because I just like, they're going to keep making money. There's tons of people playing this game. Even if they dip in and out, they're still going to see what happens in the next expansion. I bet you so many people who say like, I'm just going to come for the Final Shape and that's it, I'm out, are still going to come back for whatever they do next, because they're going to say, we're leaving the solar system, we're going to a new place. Everybody's like, what? And jumping back in. I don't know what they're going to do, but they got to keep it going. That's where they make money.
I agree with that. I fully agree. I'm also thinking that Marathon might get delayed. Like we have no date, right? Currently, as far as I know, but as in like even internally, it might get delayed because they had like a bunch of layoffs, and like Sony, the CEO of Sony was like,
that's what I was just about to say.
In order. Yeah. Sony was like, I want everybody to be on the same page. And that means get your shit in order, because you messed up somewhere along the way. And I need you to fix that, because otherwise you are like on the verge of a takeover by Sony. And Bungie does not want that. Like that's the whole reason they left other publishing companies. So yes, that's I think that Marathon's probably going to be internally delayed with the layoffs that have happened recently, and then that means Destiny is the only thing that brings them money, like you said, right?
Yep.
So they will not let it go. They can't. They literally cannot. Impossible.
And let's hope the community sticks together.
And don't get me wrong.
Thing.
Don't get me wrong. I'm so excited for Marathon. Like like that's my jam. That kind of stressful survival PvP thing. Like that's amazing. I can't wait. But like Destiny's still like that's where everything is. That's their safe moneymaker.
Yep. Oh yeah, they won't let it go not for a while at least. Not until they have something else to replace it with. And for now, they don't have that.
And I honestly don't even think they're gonna like. I think once it gets to that point, they're just gonna keep expanding the team, and they'll have new people go do Marathon if that takes off, and they'll have people keep running Destiny until it stops making money, and the population goes down, or if Sony buys out. But there's all this talk about Sony buying out Bungie if they don't perform. Like if that happens, then something could switch up. But as far as like Bungie goes, like I can't see them change anything.
Right.
I agree.
Well, any more thoughts on the past couple weeks, Twabs? Anything you want to add?
I will add what I told a YouTube commenter earlier today. Somebody was just saying, I'm like, Crucible's gone. I'm not even going to touch it come March. Good luck. Because they, don't like the direction things are heading. That just is like I have a 3-year-old who I have him try stuff at the dinner table. Like, hey, you can't just say you don't like it. Like you gotta try it, and then you take one bite, you don't like it. Okay, that's cool. And I know you guys are smarter than 3-year-olds. Like you can go and just try it and just see what you think. Come with an open mind, see what you think. If you play one game and you're like, this sucks, I hate it, get out. And I'm not even telling you what you have to do. You can choose not to play it. But I'm just saying, attitude wise, there's no reason not to just try something fresh that we've been doing for 10 years, to try something different. And I know you may have a bad taste from year one of D2. I did too. Like I didn't like that. But like I'm still excited to play something fresh and hoping that they nail it this time. They have a whole Crucible team dedicated to making the game more fun, and I like what I'm seeing with the goals that they have and with the new maps coming and what they're doing with those maps, what they're doing with current maps, making them smaller. Like these are the kind of changes I've wanted. So I'm excited for these things, excited to try it out.
Heck yeah. Seth, do you have any other questions for Lego?
I don't know. I mean, like a lot of these changes are interesting. Again, it's a waiting game in some ways, right? Like we don't know, and there's so much more than just like, oh, those changes are going to be applied. Is it going to be good? Yes, but again, player base wise, it's so small. It's such like a small kind of test base that you have. So I don't know, like it. I don't want to rehash the same questions that happen all the time, but I guess, do you think that with the announced changes, do you think that for you as a current player, it will be enough to bring back people? Yes, but maybe even bring in these new people that are like, hey, this is a free game. I'm going to give it a shot, right? Because it is a free game at the moment. We're not going to discuss
free to try.
Yeah, we're not going to discuss the pros and cons of that because the list is long.
Yes.
But like as a free game, yeah, exactly. Like there's so much to say. We're going to ignore that part. But do you believe that, or do you think, hope, whatever words you want to use?
Yeah.
You think that it might be like, yes, bring back people that have kind of maybe not lost hope in PvP, but have been like, this is not it for me anymore. I'm just going to give it up for now and maybe come back later. That this will be the later. Or but also be like to these new people, these newcomers are like, hey, this is a free to try game. It has a PvP. I enjoy PvP. And like, again, Destiny has an amazing gunplay. Like we can never deny that fact. It's one of the best gunplay experiences in video games currently. Do you think that'll be enough to make them try it, but also keep them in it? Even if it's not intensely, but like, hey, every week I'll play a bit of Crucible. It's fun. I'll do it.
Man. So yes to the bring people back. like especially not as much as a sandbox, but just rewards, what they're doing with that. Both of
Yes.
those things combined, for sure, people coming back. Probably some people stay. Some people are going to really like it. You know, hopefully we all like it. But new players, absolutely not. And the reason why is
go.
because
Okay.
PvP is dependent on PvE
Mm.
and the weapon acquiring, and
Mm.
there is just no path to understand the story, to know what to do in the game at all.
Yeah.
I recently led a new player, like one of my friends, all the way through, and it was just like he quit playing after, like, he thought the game was cool. He just quit playing after a few months because he was like, I just got to a point where like everybody was just had more stuff than me, and I couldn't figure out what to do, and I couldn't. You can't hold someone's hand through everything. Like, they got to play the game themselves. I mean, it's so vast, and there's just no way to lead you. Everything's changing, you know. Even this update, things are changing, and they're going to be even more confused, you know. So I think that I don't expect anybody new to come after these changes. I do expect and hope they have to create a form, like some sort of path for new players that is more than what we have now, that makes sense story-wise, that rearranges the director or something to where they can understand what's happening and aren't just thrown into the mix of things, because that's what will get new players in Final Shape invested, and then trying out Crucible, and then like, oh, I got this gun, let me go try it out, you know, and everything's going to be so different. The sandbox is going to be different. They're not going to get crushed by meta weapons immediately. Hopefully that's the plan. So I think that is the time in which we grab new players and have the chance for them to stick around. And I'm fingers crossed, like, please, Bungie, provide a way for new players to get into this game and bundle a package that gives them everything that they need, because there is no clear way to do that right now.
Yeah,
I agree. That's a really good response. Yes, I didn't think about it this way, but yes, it is true. And
I mean, so Humble Bundle has a deal right now.
Yeah, it's really good.
$45 for all of the deal, like everything leading up to the point that we're at in Destiny 2. The only thing that you need to get, I think, at that point is the is Final Shape.
yes,
$45. I would love to see that be the permanent thing. I would love to see that just
please,
across the board. $45. That seems like a steal for
for
those.
content that is like 3 to 4 years old in some cases, and some of it is like literally just weapons.
Yeah.
Like the Forsaken pack is just weapons because the destination has been vaulted and there's nothing else. Yes, do that. Like, make it so like, hey, you get the free game, you play it, you try it, you like it. There's like shell $40 for all of this content, and you can play the rest of it, get up to date, get a bunch of armor, weapon stuff, and then you can actually fully enjoy the game. And there's not like 5,000 different expansions to buy with different prices, some of which are way too high for what they are worth. Like, here's $40. $40, you get all of it, and then you only have to pay for the next expansion if you want to pay for the next expansion. Agree. Please,
I wonder how many people, like, how many conversions from free to play or free to try players they'd have to like paid customers if they did that move. But
I agree. Please do this. Just please do.
Anyways, Lego, I love you, man. Thank you so much for hopping in. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Any final thoughts before you go today?
Oh man, just, you know, enjoy the game if you're enjoying it. If you're not, then take a break.
Heck yeah.
Come back later. Final Shape. It's gonna be fun. So yeah. Breaks are so good, y'all.
But they're so good. And there's Helldivers now with fixed matchmaking. So, Lego, where can people find you on the internet, sir?
It's at Lego LeFlash, Lego LE Flash on YouTube and Twitter. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Or Twitter X, whatever.
It's Twitter.
Find me over there. Yes,
it's always Twitter. I changed the icon for like the little Chiron things, but it's Twitter.
Yeah,
it's Twitter.
It's Twitter. Yeah, it's Twitter.